The Civil Aviation Department gave the new airport the all-clear to operate after a weekend security sweep there. But this will unlikely end the debate over the government-run body in charge of security at Chek Lap Kok. Some believe AFSECO isn't fit to do the job. But if you ask AFSECO, they're not only doing the job, they're doing it well. Inside Story now looks at both sides of the debate, and we'd like to let you be the judge.
The fact that every single point was compromised is of great concern within the industry, aviation industry, and the police as well.
We have absolutely no doubt in our minds that from a security perspective, both in terms of the manpower and also the training, that we're absolutely ready.
Any of the concerns in the security arena are concerns of the airline.
A week from now, Hong Kong's new airport will officially be open for business. For some, the affair will mark the end of a long history of problems, from the bidding for lucrative contracts to deciding when the airport should make its debut. But some in the aviation security industry are worried that opening day could mean D-Day. Their concerns go back to June 12th, when police carried out a routine security sweep at Chek Lap Kok.
Well, after the 4-day sweep, the airport was then certified as secure. All the various areas were then graded. They were then handed over to the government security, that's AFSECO, the government aviation security company that existed before to provide security at Chek Lap Kok. So the police then went to check on AFSECO's capabilities. They then returned to the airport and did their own check on all security points.
So you're saying after handing it to AFSECO, they secretly went back to do a follow-up operation?
That's right, to see how the new company was handling. Every single, and I mean every single security point was compromised.
Security is a highly sensitive issue, and our source contacted Inside Story to reveal what he calls the alarming state of security at the new airport. He agreed to talk to us on the basis we keep his identity concealed. So for the purpose of this program, we'll call him Nigel. What we can tell you about Nigel is that he has 15 years of aviation security experience under his belt.
The fact that every single point was compromised is of great concern within the industry. That's within the aviation industry, and the police as well. As a result, police headquarters wrote a letter to the Director of Civil Aviation expressing their extreme concern as to the security. If you want to call it security, that is.
AFSECO insists a covert police operation never took place.
There was no such operation. There have been a number of operations that have been done in the passenger terminal building by police units, which are obviously have a role to play after airport opens, familiarizing themselves with the various systems of operation of the passenger terminal building and the airport as a whole.
How did you come across this information?
Well, people within the police force are very concerned indeed, and they're talking about it amongst themselves. Nothing other than that letter, though, has been written. It's a worrying thing because AFSECO was set up by the Hong Kong government, and the people who sit on the board includes the Commissioner of Police. So in fact, the Commissioner is in fact writing to his own company.
So does that mean there's a conflict of interest here?
Absolutely, because he can simply ignore his own warning. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
So how long did it take the police to write this letter?
Well, they did it immediately.
Immediately?
Yes, because of their concern.
So far, the Director of Civil Aviation maintains no specific cases of security breaches have been brought to his attention. Meanwhile, according to Nigel, most in the business are shaking their heads, but are unwilling to speak out publicly. Why are you telling me all of this?
Well, I'm not getting anything out of it. If there were a terrorist organization that decided to use Hong Kong, it would be very easy for them to do so.
So how easy would it be for someone to get into the airport without passes? So at this moment, if I want to go to the airport, I would have to get all those passes.
If you're talking about today, prior to airport opening, the answer is yes.
But what happens if people roam around the terminal and they get to the baggage carousel area or even further than that?
Okay, I think the first thing is people don't roam around in Chek Lap Kok. People are here for a purpose. They're here to get on with either construction works, final fitting out works on behalf of the various airport tenants. They're here for a purpose. We don't have members of the public come to Chek Lap Kok and simply roam around. Even if we did have, there is absolutely no way that a person could get, as you said, to the baggage carousel without first going past one of our security checkpoints, and they would be stopped and told that they could proceed no further.
Well, before our interview with AFSICO, we thought we'd try to find out how far we could go, without passes, without permission. To our surprise, we were able to roam freely in restricted areas, no questions asked.
I have no idea what route you took, or I only have your word that you got into, as you call it, the baggage carousel. And no doubt you have footage of that if that's what you achieved. All I would say is that for you to have entered a serious position within the airport, and one which had not the airport authority been aware with, then obviously that is a matter for serious concern, yes.
And that's an illustration of a security breach.
As I say, today, as you well know, is a day that the airport authority have invited members of the press to the airport. So I think today is a particularly unfair example.
Yes, a press tour was taking place the day we were filming. However, we were not part of that press tour, nor did we have the necessary visible passes to get on the site to begin with. In addition, we had no visible television equipment with us that would indicate that we were a TV crew. Have the airlines people expressed worries about security at Chek Lap Kok?
Yes, they have. I don't have to explain the Israeli issue or the American issue, dealing with terrorists and terrorist threats. I do know that El Al is concerned about security of Chek Lap Kok, mainly because of a certain number of their staff have also compromised the AFSICO security barriers.
Have they told you this?
Oh yes, they've told me.
And there are other worries. For one, the airlines aren't allowed to hire additional security as insurance. Late last year, the government announced AFSICO would be the only provider at Chek Lap Kok. Mark Salati remembers that day well.
Up in November, I was actually at a meeting with the airport authority at about 12 noon one day, being told that they were still waiting for a decision from government, and that they were still considering multiple service providers. And at approximately 1 o'clock that afternoon, we were called by the Security Bureau and brought into a conference with Security Bureau and told that there would be a single service provider. So it literally changed, the policy changed in about an hour's time. Obviously that was very surprising, and it took us a while to fully understand the impact of that decision.
When that happened, what was your first thought?
I think I was a bit angry, to tell you the truth. It was, the airlines have been working very much in the spirit of cooperation on all of the issues at the airport, and to be, to have such an abrupt change of policy so late in the game, I think puts everyone in a very, very difficult position, the airport authority, the airlines themselves, the security companies in Hong Kong, etc.
The situation the government wants to prevent is the proliferation of small, inexperienced, cost-cutting companies inside one of what should be the safest areas in Hong Kong.
It's a question of additional, I think, is what we're talking about, particularly high-value cargo, where we actually would like a security guard to watch that cargo go from the cargo terminal to actually be put on the aircraft and to be there. Those are services that are additional. They're not required under the law. We'd like to have guards at the bottom of the steps of the aircraft, for example, when it's parked at the airport. It's not a requirement, but we want to ensure that people going on the aircraft and coming off the aircraft are only taking those things that they're supposed to and nothing else.
Stuart Parks follows the issue closely, and for good reason. He heads Hong Kong Security Association.
When you consider the huge amount of work that has to be done at the airport in regards to security, all that training for checking passengers, checking baggage, checking cargo, checking airplanes, general security and access control of the buildings themselves is tremendous. One would hope that ABSICO would be able to be a bit more flexible, a bit more open, a bit more accountable, and to be able to work with the security industry in Hong Kong in allowing them to provide services.
You have to differentiate between criticism of that nature and criticism which probably has everything to do with commercial self-interest rather than the genuine security of Chek Lap Kok Airport.
So you're basically saying that it's really sour grapes on the part of some security firms that they didn't get work at Chek Lap Kok?
I would say that that might play a part in some of the comments, yes.
And insiders like Nigel tell us seeking expert advice on these kinds of issues have come at a hefty price. Take, for example, the case of Norman Shanks. He had a 3-year contract with the airport authority. Nothing wrong with that. As the former head of security at Heathrow, his expertise was considered invaluable, at least in the beginning. But according to the airport authority, he willingly left the job last December, and it's understood he also left with a nice payout that covered the 1 year left in his contract. Were the people at the airport quite surprised by all of this?
Well, absolutely. They were shocked, in fact. Shall we say he's left, or I think the official term is left, but it's widely known in the industry that he was released.
So are you saying basically he was fired?
Yes, he was fired, mainly because he knew what he was doing, and many people didn't, and his immediate bosses weren't particularly keen about that. Every time he was told of an idea, and they told them it wouldn't work, or wasn't practical, there was a lot of conflict. They wouldn't accept it, and now he's back in Hong Kong.
Who does he work for now?
For ABSICO, but at the taxpayers' cost of $1 million a month.
So basically they fired him, and then they hired him back.
Yes, basically they realized at this late stage that he was talking some sense. Like 3 weeks before the opening of a major international airport, and they suddenly found out they can't do it. So they have to bring this guy back out from the UK.
Is he actually working for the airport authority?
No, he's working for another company.
What's that company?
Well, Secure Air.
Secure Air has been doing security at Kai Tak for more than 25 years. ABSICO asked Secure Air to hire Norman Shanks on their behalf. Do you work with the Norman Shanks?
We've been providing some consultancy to the new aviation security company, and Norman Shanks has been working with us in providing some advice and professional expertise to ABSICO.
We make use of his services. He's a well-respected international aviation security consultant.
I think we scramble in the last minutes here to get the airport open, and we continue to look at the issue after the airport opens.
We have over 800 staff at the moment here at Chek Lap Kok prior to airport opening. We've also undertaken to absorb some 1,400 staff from the existing security service provider at Kai Tak. So the question of us being inexperienced doesn't arise.
Well, I think it'll be very glitzy, very glamorous opening, and there'll be fireworks and famous people. It'll look great. But those who know anything about aviation security will be very, very concerned.